Hello, this is the Crime Diaries, and today's entry, which is entry number 1, we'll be discussing Jon Siesling. If you are a real true crime enthusiast like me, you will have no problem making it to the end. You're going to want to make it to the end to hear this shocking story. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you like the content in today's entry. So to get started, Jon Siesling was born to father Jan and to mother Sharon Siesling. He also had 2 younger sisters, Katelin and Leah. The bulk of Jon Siesling's childhood was in a suburb right outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Jon describes his childhood as very traumatic, saying that he had very few happy childhood memories. He made claims of physical and verbal abuse at the hands of both parents. By the age of 12, Jon said he was already smoking marijuana, which led to harder drugs such as LSD, cocaine, and even heroin. During his high school years, Jon said his house was the place to go. He would invite friends over while his parents was at work, which wasn't hard because his father was a long-distance truck driver who he stated was never really home a lot, and his mother worked at a hospital as a receptionist. Jon claimed during all the partying, the drugs, and the drinking, he would experience blackouts, and during those blackouts, that's when his alter ego, Johnny, would just take over. And I want you guys to just take note of Johnny because it's definitely going to be important later in this story. So moving forward, at the age of 16, Johnny claimed that's when he found his faith in a neo-pagan religion. And despite what his parents and others believed, he was not a devil worshiper, but a Wiccan. And just a quick side note, followers of Wicca pray to a goddess and or god with a goal of gaining harmony with the cycles of nature and touching the spiritual world. Also, at the age of 16, Jon claimed he attempted to commit suicide. He put his grandfather's pistol in his mouth and pulled the trigger, but nothing happened. So I'm guessing for his parents, Jon was the problem child. You take into account, it doesn't seem like they really agree with his religion, along with the suicide attempt. At the age of 16, they took him to visit a mental hospital. His parents took him to Pinecrest Christian Mental Hospital, where he was prescribed Prozac, and this was in October of 2002. A year later, Jon made another attempt on his life. He took a mouthful of Prozac in an attempt to roll over his car, speeding at high rates. So Jon survived that suicide attempt and just kept running away from home. He was very unhappy, and his friends reported that he even had plans of killing his family, but they later said that they thought he was just joking. They didn't take him serious. On January 22nd, 2003, Jon states that he got into an argument with his younger sister Katelin, who was 15 at the time. The argument with Katelin eventually led to an altercation with his mother. Jon states after the altercation with his mother, he went into his room, closed the door, and laid on his bed for several hours. The next thing he knew, he said he was covered in blood and walking through his house. He saw his mother in the kitchen with blood covered her, and he could hear her speaking. She was saying, "Why? I love you. Please don't kill your father." Jon later states he doesn't know if he imagined it or if it was even physically possible for his mother to speak. Jon then took a shower, changed his clothes, and jumped into the family's car. His plan was to escape, and then he said he had the thought that the police was just going to catch him anyway, so he might as well face the music, which is probably the smartest thought he had through this whole ordeal. When Jon did call police, he told the operator that 2 men driving a car with a loud exhaust pipe had robbed his family's home. He said he knew if he told the police that he was the one that killed his family, they would rough him up. When police officers arrived on scene, Jon met them at the door, fresh out the shower, his hair still soaking wet. After police wasn't buying the story about the 2 robbers, Jon then told them that he blacked out and didn't remember harming his family. But Walker Police Detective Bert Elliott said Jon's story just didn't fit the facts. because he gave a detailed account of what happened to his family. Detective Elliott said there was blood all over the house, all over the sidewalk, and also outside by the garage door. In the police report, it was detailed that Katelin's body was found near an outside door, and she had also been sexually assaulted. Jon's mother, Sharon, her body was found in the kitchen. Later, it was reported that Jon slit his mother's throat after hitting her with a baseball bat as she attempted to climb up the stairs, probably to get away from him or in an attempt to go save her daughter. Jon also revealed that Leah came inside the house from playing outside, and she began crying when she saw the pool of blood that was left from her sister and her mother. Jon then walked Leah upstairs and put her to bed, and then he slit her throat as well, and she was only 6 years old at the time. Police officers also found an 8-inch kitchen knife with a broken handle in the kitchen sink. Reports say some family members was bludgeoned with a bat, and all 3 were stabbed. I'm thinking it was Sharon, his mom, and Katelin, the older sister, who were the family members that was bludgeoned with the bat. Even though Jon and his defense lawyers tried to paint the picture of mental illness, it took just over an hour for juries to decide his fate, and the judge agreed. He charged Jon Siesling to 3 counts of murder. But before the judge passed the sentence, Jon had a statement. Jon said he would like to apologize to all those involved and all those he hurt. He had no intentions of doing what he did. But the judge had no sympathy for Jon. He ruled that incident as Michigan's worst case. The judge also denied Jon's term at a juvenile center. He said he's never seen anything as graphic and horrific as this case. 2 years later, at a hearing, the Supreme Court had a ruling that juveniles charged with life without parole had a chance to be redeemed or get their sentence lowered. Jon and his defense attorney argued that since he was 17 at the time of the crimes, he should at least have a set term to his prison sentence. During the hearing, Jon pleaded his case. He stated that he was not a cold-blooded killer. He's just a kid who slowly lost his mind after years of abuse and drug abuse. Jon still held on to the claim that he blacked out and it was Johnny who took over, his alter ego, and that he really couldn't remember everything, even though he confessed to the crimes and gave a detailed account to the slayings of his family. And Detective Elliott, who was first on the scene, also had to recount the details of what he seen that day. He stated he was still haunted by this case and what he seen in that house. Needless to say, Jon's plea was also denied, and he will spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole for the 3 killings. The family says, understandably, Jon's father has never been the same since. It was reported that his father had only talked to Jon on the phone one time during his whole prison sentence. Jon told his father that he hoped he didn't believe that he was able to do that in the right state of mind. The only thing Jon's father said was, "Oh," and then handed the phone to another family member. And that was the last time he talked to his father. Jon also had a piece of advice, and that advice was, don't abuse your children or they might kill you. And then he later added that that was just a joke. 20 years later, the home's yard was decorated in a very tasteless manner, in my opinion. The front door was decorated with silhouettes of people and handprints with the words, "Help us," written on the window. The homeowner at the time, 20 years later, was Amanda, who didn't want her last name reported. I'm guessing because she knew it was tasteless. She stated that the family had been in her home for years and it was rented out to the Siesling family. Understandably, the neighbors were outraged by her choice of Halloween decorations. Amanda told news outlets that she remembers when she moved in having to clean up blood all over the house, and till this day, there's still blood in the home that she just can't get rid of. She states she put up those decorations because everyone in the neighborhood knows what happened at that house, and they constantly drive past and even yelling things. Amanda says the decorations are her way of saying, "This is my house, and yes, I know what happened here. Leave me and my family alone." Amanda stated she would like people to stop driving by her home and even screaming obscene things at her family. Amanda then stated, telling others, "Come knock on my door," and then asked what I had to clean up. Maybe this is just my way of dealing with it. One thing that stood out to me when I was researching this case for the story, Jon made a comment saying how much he cared for his sisters and that he knew how guys were, so he felt the need to protect them. It's just pretty weird that he was the one in the end that they needed protection from. He was the guy to take their life. And if you think about Katelin being sexually assaulted, that just makes it even worse. So he's definitely where he needs to be for the rest of his life. And that's it for this entry of Crime Diaries. If you like this content, make sure to like this video. And if you're looking forward to more content, don't forget to subscribe. And I would also love to see your feedback down in the comments below.